Hi everyone, welcome to this distant adventure. Main character Loki and his military flag. Then, hiding in the bushes, the cavalry galloped towards the enemy like they were on a roller coaster, facing a wide open plain where the Germans were as ready as fish. In an instant, chaos ensued as the Germans danced under the swordplay, caught with their pants down and driven into the woods, thinking this was going to be a one-sided match. Who would have thought the enemy had set a trap, and the machine gunners were playing save you, as the tree and stone machine guns opened fire simultaneously. Bullets sliced through the air like the scythe of death, creating a curtain of deadly rain, while the cavalry were like confused critters being swept away by a storm. The cavalry unit vanished in a flash, and the surviving officers had no choice but to surrender, while a German officer sarcastically remarked, "Hey, lucky for you, Joey survived the chaos." Backstabber rushed to Joey, like long-lost friends reuniting. Time flies. But the Germans were all mechanized troops, and the commander decided to turn all the horses into rations. Soldiers felt guilty, suggesting using horses for supplies. Wounded, they were spared, but Backstabber refused farm tools. If this went on, the commander would send him to the gallows. At a loss, Joey demonstrated. He said to Backstabber, "This isn't dangerous." So Backstabber put on the farm tools. Meanwhile, across the pond in England, Bert received a package and was overjoyed. Inside was a portrait of Joey along with the news of Loki's death. Joey's fate was uncertain, yet the bond endured. Meanwhile, the soldier was retained for horse care skills. The commander insisted on sending his brother to the front line, even though he knew he had just turned 14. This is why humanity hates war. Facing the machinery of the state, individual lives are so insignificant that the soldier handed his brother the flag up just for good luck. The soldier soon regretted it, promising his mother to care for his brother. The next day, as troops set off, he simply charged into the ranks, riding Joey and Backstabber. Forcing his brother onto the horse, the brothers charged on until dark, finally settling down at a fort. Dreaming of home post-war, they didn't know desertion was a big no on the battlefield. That night, the Germans got them. Schrader. "Yes, sir, you bet. You signed up." With the gunshot echoing. Executed as deserters, the brother failed to keep his promise to his mother. But those two horses survived. Next morning, the girl found them in the windmill, a delightful surprise. From that day on, the girl became the new owner, showing endless love as she cared for them, sometimes even jumping over fences. But Grandpa constantly used her height as an excuse to stop her from riding her. Suddenly, Grandpa showed a panicked expression, hurriedly telling his granddaughter to hide the horses, because a German troop was coming nearby, rummaging through things like robbers. These soldiers rummaged everywhere like thieves, not even sparing them fermented jam. The officer arrogantly stated they would be back in a few months, a truly punctual tour group. After the soldiers left, the girl felt deep disappointment in Grandpa's cowardice, since her parents were actually killed by the Germans. Today, when faced with the Germans again, Grandpa remained utterly unresponsive, a real chicken. He had to tell her, "You must know you'll never give up. Look ahead, or you'll never get home. Hey, can you be braver than Grandpa?" The girl, understanding this, couldn't help but shed tears. Grandpa lived weakly just to shield his granddaughter with all his aged feathers. What could be braver than that? Wow, time flies. In the blink of an eye, 3 years have passed. On the girl's birthday, Grandpa gifted her a sad, truly thoughtful gift. The little girl finally fulfilled her wish and rode a horse, excitedly soaring over the hills. Watching his granddaughter ride away, Grandpa anxiously called out to her, urging her to come back quickly. But after waiting a long time with no response, Backstabber suddenly grew restless at her. Grandpa hurried over to check and found out that his granddaughter was already surrounded by Germans. It was urgent. Despite their desperate pleas, the two horses were still forcibly taken away. It was so unfair. "You don't need them. There are plenty of others. Just take the big one." "You've ruined my daughter's heart. I will take everything from everyone's hands." However, this time the brothers weren't as lucky. I heard they were assigned to pull heavy loads. Midway, one horse couldn't bear the weight and fell, and the officer immediately ended it with a shot. It was so cruel. Next, they called on the tall Backstabber to step up, and a soldier hurriedly informed the officer that this horse had hurt its leg. "If it pulls heavy loads, it will surely be exhausted." The officer told the soldier, "You shouldn't have pity for things destined to be lost. Even life on the battlefield isn't worth much, let alone a beast." Just then, Joey broke free and ran to the front, seemingly demonstrating his strength. "See that? He's stronger, get him up there. He's the blood horse of the squad." As his friend left safely, Joey looked back with teary eyes, as if bidding farewell to his only friend. Destiny never let him off easily. That cannon was heavy enough to scare someone, and Joey gave it everything he had. Finally, he pulled the cannon up the hill, and the waiting soldiers quickly loaded the shells. It was an urgent mission. With the officer's command, the shells poured down on the British position like raindrops. It was quite a blast. Newly enlisted, but was among them. Of course, the landlord's silly son was there too, a real celebrity gathering. After the bombardment came the infantry showdown, and at the sound of the charge, it was a fight for survival. Soldiers charged toward the enemy positions amidst the gunfire. Life became incredibly fragile at that moment. A step forward meant another soldier. Unfortunately, the landlord's son was shot in the leg, and Bert quickly helped him to a shell hole for cover. It was a desperate moment. Although they were lifelong enemies, in that moment they were bonded as brothers fighting for survival, a bizarre relationship in war. Seeing the enemy position couldn't be breached, Bert immediately threw a grenade to blow a hole through. What a genius plan. When they charged into the trenches, they found there were no defenders left. What an unexpected surprise. Oddly enough, all the fallen enemies were wearing gas masks like some bizarre party. Before everyone had a chance to react, an experienced old soldier shouted out urgently. And just like that, they were engulfed by clouds of white smoke, a truly surreal adventure. Meanwhile, the German forces were retreating in an orderly fashion, a dramatic contrast. At this point, Backstabber's leg injury had become inflamed and infected. Walking was a struggle. The soldiers quickly took him aside to rest, but he eventually collapsed. It was a heartbreaking sight. In the end, he slowly closed his eyes amid Joe's cries, a tragic end to their friendship. Just then, British tanks roared in, a dramatic scene of warfare. A few comrades forcibly pulled the soldiers away, and moments later, the tank mercilessly crushed Backstabber. This was truly terrible. Joey could only flee in panic. His fate was truly a tragic moment. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.